So really excited to give you all an overview of what we've been working on at Clarify, show you a demo of the product as well if you haven't seen it, and then talk a little bit about where we're headed as a company. So without further ado, let me kick this off. Cool. This is the agenda for today. We want to talk about why we started Clarify, do a live product walkthrough, and talk about our pricing model, how we think about that a little bit differently than the existing tools in market, and then do a overview of our how we view the autonomous CRM here. It's a little bit different than I think some folks might think about. Give you a sneak peek of what our roadmap looks like, and then do a Q&A at the end. So quickly, why did we start Clarify? Both Austin and myself spent a lot of time generally in go-to-market tech. Previous to this, started a company which was a CDP company that got acquired by Amplitude, worked with over 1,000 companies. In my time there, putting things like reference architectures together, trying to figure out how data from Salesforce syncs over to Marketo, vice versa, how your CDP is really meant to empower your go-to-market and growth team. And throughout all that time, just saw the pain points that teams had. I actually experienced this pain myself as a founder, having to set up HubSpot back in the day and failing to set it up 3 times until we hired our head of growth, Francisca, who set it up for us. And once we got acquired, having to migrate all of that workflow over to Salesforce. And my brain exploded on the back end of that, just the amount of work required and the amount of labor that had to go into it to get the outcomes that we're looking for. And then Austin and I connected. He was an early customer of ours back in the early days and a resident expert in all things go-to-market technology. And he experienced the same pain point previously as VP of growth at mParticle, which is another CDP provider, and then having to consult with companies like Walmart and Postmates and a bunch of other companies in this space. And we came together, really thought about from a first principles how we can build something better for early stage startups, primarily going after founders. And that's the genesis of Clarify. This was roughly around the time that AI was starting to catch up with things like LLMs and ChatGPT. So we consider ourselves a post AI solution where we're really trying to think about the workflows natively and how they can be solved with AI instead of having everything be manual or workflow driven. And yeah, this again talking a little bit about kind of the genesis here. Founder-led sales is freaking hard. You have to spend a ton of your time working with different teams. There's a lot of different folks that you work with internally, from recruiting to marketing to support. You're basically wearing a lot of hats, and the tools that you have access to are really siloed as well. So we saw this in a lot of the customer discovery calls that we had. We did over 100 discovery calls before starting this company. And every team had at least half a dozen tools. At Amplitude, we had 33 different tools in our go-to-market stack. But even early stage startups, seed and Series A, have a tool for support. They have a tool for outbound. They have a tool for their CRM. They have a tool for call recording, and you name it. And they use a bunch of different data providers along with Sales Navigator and so on. And what we really thought about is how do we help consolidate all this into an all-in-one solution that instead of you having to do work for your CRM, really shifts it on its head where your CRM is doing work for you. And so that's a little bit of what we'll be talking about, and hopefully you can see in the demo as well. And again, the amount of time that you have to do for sales admin really is just painful today. You have a lot of work you have to do. For me, as an example, if I look at my calendar and you'll see it coming up on Clarify, it's a lot of back-to-back meetings. So there's a lot of work when it comes to doing things like preparing for a call, being able to take notes, and then updating your CRM. And effectively, you have a lot of sellers or founders who spend greater than half their time on the operational side of sales versus actually spending time with the customers. And I don't know about other folks on the call, but I actually get a lot of enjoyment from talking to our customers and working with folks on the prospect side versus having to spend time in tools. So we've really thought about how Clarify just operates in the background and takes up a lot less time. And Austin, I don't want to steal your thunder here. Do you want to jump in and talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, it's great. We're on this dialogue around why we created Clarify. And I think the most important one was actually the experience you just talked about, Patrick. Many of our earliest customers were founders. We obviously are now in the same position. And I like to talk about this example so often that a lot of people here face, whether you're a founder or an early entrepreneur or an operator, you show up at the start of your day, you're prospecting and finding people, you're reaching out to them, you're having conversations on email, you're having to plan and schedule those conversations. Then you have the call. You have to record the call. You got to take notes afterwards. You got to follow up with them. Then you got to remember to follow up if they don't respond back to you. There's just a lot of mental capacity required to actually guide a prospect through the buying journey and to build that relationship. And behind the scenes, whether you're a really small company or a really big company, there's all this process that's happening. There's a system that's trying to help sellers do their job. Now, if you work at a really big company, like when I was at Ramp, for example, we had a team of 15 folks actually helping orchestrate all these tools together to try to make it easy for the seller just to show up and effectively have conversations. And all that work is handled automatically in the background. We were not able to achieve it, even at Ramp with hundreds of millions in funding, hundreds of millions in revenue, a team of 10 plus. We are not able to manually abstract away the administrative burden of a salesperson's job so that all they had to do is show up and have conversations. And that to me speaks about the really hard problem and the hard second reason why we're building Clarify is that no matter how you slice it, sales administration takes time. And all the things that I think a lot of folks take for granted in a revenue stack, we are trying to automate inside Clarify. We'll talk about this in a second around the idea of autonomy. But today, I think a lot of people would argue very rightfully that you can actually build a world-class machine with enough time and money and knowledge. But what I find a lot of people find themselves in is this place where they've built this monstrosity, this machine that does everything, but they still haven't gotten rid of the fact that they have to manage it. And that's the same experience that people have with agents today. So the second reason we really want to build Clarify is again this idea that what happens if you actually took sales administration completely out of the picture and people could show up and just build relationships, have conversations, knowing that they have a support system, an agent, a background machine that's running to help make sure that they always follow up with that next best step.
Yeah, and Austin, you built some pretty sophisticated MarTech, RevTech systems before. Like, how does that compare the amount of time and energy that you've had to put in to do that at some of these world-class companies? How does that compare to what we're building here at Clarify?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that the problem is the same no matter how big of your size. It's just amplified by people and scale. I actually, obviously, there's Walmart, but there's a lot of other companies like Ramp and Particle. Recently talked to folks at Rover, talked to Capital One last year. It never ceases to surprise me that even 5, 6 years after MarTech took off and CDPs took off, we're still dealing with the same set of problems, which is that marketers and sellers, for that matter, want to be able to scale themselves with tools and technology, and that just takes time. Now,
Yeah.
one big difference, though, I think between what we're building internally at Clarify and what I think other people are doing in the market is that one, we get to dog food our own product, which is amazing because it means that you and I can talk every day about the things that we're struggling with and just bake them right into the product. So it's just as a little teaser for everybody out there, it's like we've been spending the last 3 months working with Zapier. Zapier is effectively our out-of-box iPaaS tool for folks who work in RevTech. Usually get to a size and stage where you need to take workflows out of the tools and move them to an iPaaS solution. So we're dog fooding Zapier, and we're getting to this point where we're like, why aren't we just building this inside Clarify ourselves? So that's a
Yeah.
unique advantage that we have, obviously building Clarify for ourselves. But the thing is, no matter whether you look at us or some of our customers, like Paramark, for example, which is one of our customers we talk about all the time, they're still dealing with the same set of issues, which is like, how do we continually and consistently reduce the amount of time things take? And again, I think the only way you get there is by trying to make things autonomous, by trying not to over-index on flexibility and actually try to do things automatically out of the box for the customer.
Totally. Yeah, I think this is a great question because Ruben asked it as well in the chat, but it's like, how do you think about that integration within third-party tools like Zapier? And yeah, like we do have an integration with Zapier, but we also have our own workflow builder directly in the CRM, and that's only getting better and better as we continue to invest in it. So yeah, excited to show that in the demo. Okay, quickly. Yeah, and then what does AI native mean? I think there's a lot of folks here who are looking at different go-to-market technologies, seeing a lot of different builders out there. So when we say AI native, effectively what we're really trying to talk about is how do we reimagine what that kind of core job to be done or that core use case that somebody's hiring a CRM to do. And Austin alluded to some of the things around just CRM hygiene and operations of how do you have to maintain your CRM over time. I alluded to some of the work required into even creating deals or adding contacts into your CRM. But effectively, what we really think about when it comes to being truly AI native is that how do we leverage AI to automate work for teams and rethink what that kind of core workflow looks like. And so hopefully you'll see some of that in the demo, but everything from doing pipeline management to doing things like meeting intelligence with our integrated call recorder, we're really trying to reimagine what that looks like in this kind of post-AI world.
And yeah, Pat, one thing I'll share to answer your question, Ruben, before we go over onto the demo, it's not just the what you think about when you think AI native is like agents running in the background doing stuff. It also means how can you actually apply AI to more intricate technical parts of a CRM? As a revenue operator, one thing I always think about is integrations. And I think one of the reasons why people want to have integrations because they're trying to create a sense of truth. They want to have one system that has all the data available so they can do some of these complex things we talk about. What I challenge with integrations is that even a real moat anymore? I think we're moving to a world in the next year to 2 years where the idea of an integration will be completely different. Already, you can actually talk to an agent, even in a local environment like Claude or GPT, and have it construct a webhook to send data into a third-party tool. What happens when we get to the point where you as an operator can talk to the CRM and say, hey, I have a connection with a third party. Can you write the webhook to send this data from point A to point B? At that stage, we're not talking about third-party integrations anymore. We're talking about, hey, Clarify as a tool has the ability to write code and send data to any place in the entire known universe as long as there's documentation about how to do it. So to me, this kind of comes back to the point around, am I worried about integrations and what's our stance? Our stance is that technology is going to make that moat completely disappear in the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, I agree with that
About that.
also because if you think about the two things that a lot of the legacy incumbents have really changed and some news on some of that have dropped lately. One is obviously the data and like data portability, how it's easy to get data in and out of these tools, which we spent a lot of time obviously in CDP land, which is a lot of that. And then two is really like that workflow configuration, like how do you manage complex workflows and traditionally in other tools that might be in code like Apex. But yeah, really trying to make it easy to configure these integrations, the workflows, and get the data in and out of the system. And that I think AI has done a really good job of kind of leveling the playing field there compared to where we were a decade ago. Cool. So sweet. I'd love to jump into a demo and show everybody on the call what we've been building at Clarify. Again, this is a live demo. We'll see how things go. I really kind of want to talk a little bit about how we see the system, how we're really designing it to be focused on helping early stage founders or sellers get their job done. So here you can see that we have my calendar fully integrated. The first thing to realize and orient yourself around Clarify is that this is connected into the different systems that you use. So if I jump into things like my connected account, we are 100% connected into my Google Workspace across our entire organization, our team, and everybody in go-to-market has their account connected. So any conversation, whether or not it's an email or a meeting, is automatically logged into the CRM. And I wouldn't say that this is revolutionary, but this is very different than how teams work today with a lot of the legacy tools, because we're basically pulling in all of the data and then running that through our workflow engine to be able to take action on it. So when I jump into Clarify every morning, I can see all my calls. You can see that, as we alluded to, a lot of my days, back-to-back meetings from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. I'm in meetings today, back-to-back. It's really helpful when I have a call with somebody that I can easily click into it. Here, let's go look at something like this discovery call with Jonathan. I have a call here coming up for a discovery call. When I click into this call, I know who I'm talking to. I get AI generated meeting prep here. And this is looking at all of the history of my interaction. So any emails or previous calls that we've had are automatically used to generate effectively this AI meeting prep. So I get relevant context ahead of my call. I get key points to bring up during the call. If there's been any support escalations in the past, that will all show up here as well. And the next thing is that if there's any related deals for this person as well, you'll see all of the full context there as well. So when you think about a seller who's in back-to-back meetings, we're really trying to automate as much of the meeting prep and follow-up. I'll show you what that looks like as well. The other nice thing is because we have the entire history of anybody you've ever interacted with, you can easily jump into things like companies and people and get an entire list of all the companies you've ever interacted with. This is sorted by last interaction. So as we have new meetings or new emails come in, you'll see that this jumps around. But we have 18,000 people in, or 18,000 companies in our CRM. We load everything extremely fast as well. It's really easy to find data. We have Command K built in as well. So if I want to go search for something like Atlassian, I can see any related deals, companies, meetings, or tasks related to Atlassian here. And we've designed Clarify to be extremely fast and modern. So this feels a lot like Notion or Linear or Slack or other tools that modern teams use. And we're really trying to optimize for the experience to, if you are coming into the CRM, how do we make it so you can get in and out and get your job done as quickly as possible? If you've ever used Lightning or other tools out there, they tend to be slow, requires a lot of clicks, and we're really trying to get you as much information up front and as quickly as possible. And this is same thing with people, right? So if I jump into to people, I get all of the folks I've recently interacted with. We automatically enrich all of this data as well. So we have our own waterfall enrichment directly built into Clarify. So you don't have to go configure things like Apollo or Clarabit or ZoomInfo. All that's just built and handled just out of the box for you. We'll go find things like job titles on LinkedIn's automatically so that again you can be in a system and get the information that you need just right away. And yeah, quickly jumping over to things like meetings, we have a lot of other core primitives that you would come to expect, right? So I can jump into things like my favorites here, which is my recorded meetings. This is all of our meeting recordings. We have a built-in call recorder. So if I jump into a discovery call that I had recently, right, I can go look at this one with Gage. I get my entire history of how that call went. I get the integrated call recorder. This was a meeting that I had here. You get the entire video history and you get the entire transcript. This powers a lot of our kind of agentic workflows that we have into the CRM. So things like being able to, again, plan my day, get the AI meeting prep, jump into a call with a customer, get the call recording all built into the CRM. So you don't have to use a third-party call recorder, and then get the entire summary of the call. Again,
Hey,
the some,
Patrick,
yeah.
what happens if at the end of the call you don't want to search over the summary and you just wanted to write you an email to help follow up?
Yeah, the nice thing about this, right, is that you can just use our Ask feature. This is in beta right now, but this is effectively our first, what we'd call the Copilot agent built in. We have two types of AI in Clarify. We have ambient AI, effectively AI that just runs in the background that helps you get your job done. We have this Copilot style experience, right? So if I jump into this call, I can easily just say, hey, draft me a follow-up email, and this will actually run. It'll look at the entire context history of every interaction I've ever had with Ethan here from Gage as an example, and it'll draft it. You can see it's talking about things like credit consumption, which we'll talk a little bit about in a moment on pricing. I can easily go look at things like our database access, Stripe integration, and team introduction. So it's really good being able to look at all of the history with this particular account and actually give me kind of an up-to-date. I want to say, hey, write me a follow-up, but do it like a pirate, right? It can actually go do that as well, which is it's fun when you do a live demo here. Ahoy, Ethan, me hearty. So yeah, this is all integrated. One of the things that we're actually shipping in the next few weeks is the ability just for the agent to do this for you. So instead of having to go in, the actual agent can actually compose and send the email directly for you directly in the CRM. All of this, again, we're trying to build an integrated experience so that you can spend, if you are in the CRM, you're spending the least amount of time as possible to do the things that you need. And yeah, we have features not yet enabled on this account, but I was going to show you something neat here. And the nice thing is you can torture this as well, right? So what CRMs did Ethan try, and why did he decide to go with clarify in two sentences? So it's very easy for me to go in and be able to get more insights around my customer conversations. We're also working on a bunch of other features here as an example to be able to auto-populate records directly from these calls. So here you can see that Ethan tried HubSpot, Salesforce, Audio, and Clarify, finding HubSpot and Salesforce too clunky and legacy, while Audio is considered comparable to Clarify but more expensive, right? So Clarify was chosen due to its modern approach in alignment with Gage's needs here. So very easy to go in and get some more information about that. And the nice thing is that we auto-generate tasks. So this is something that we don't talk a lot about, but because we are effectively AI native, when we look at the entire transcript history, not only are we able to summarize the call, I can actually jump in and see that there are tasks that were automatically created from this meeting, and it actually pulled in a bunch of the context. Because we're effectively a warehouse for your customer data, we can give customers direct access to that warehouse to be able to build queries or connect to tools like Hex. And this is a feature that Ethan was pretty excited about as well. And if I go look at that deal as an example, if I go look at Gage here, you can see that there's a deal that was automatically created here. This is somebody that's one of our self-serve customers that came in through kind of our PLG motion. You can see that we have an up-to-date summary generated from AI as well on this deal. And this was all automatically done. You can see that Clarify actually updated the summary 16 hours ago and see any of the related tasks associated with this deal as well. And yeah, any of the history that we've had. So any questions about this, Austin, that you think I should probably highlight?
One question that who was it that Sam had was just how we've thinking about how we've separated what's general updates from what's specific to a summary. So maybe you could talk through how we've built our AI engine to discreetly pull out information for deals and how that's connected to meeting updates and how you're thinking about the future of how all these work together. Maybe even talking about how we automatically update fields, how we automatically update tasks. I'm not sure if you went too deep into your Outstanding task. I know you've been out of office.
I definitely have a lot of tasks I still have to go do, right? So that part of the sales hygiene we're looking at improving, which is still the human. But no, I think in the context of how our AI works when it comes to doing things like summarization or creating things, effectively it's an event-driven system. So we look at all of the activity history across your deals, people, and companies to understand whether or not we should take action, right? So when a new email comes in the system, we basically say, hey, should we do an action for you? And so some of those systems today, right, if I go look in things like notifications, let me go look at notifications real quick, could be things like field updates, right? So if I go here, you can see that there's a few things that are probably worth talking about. There's a suggested update for a deal with CRV. So I can easily go in and look at that. You can see that there's a summary of activity here. I can go look and see that, hey, there's proposing a new close date. This was driven from an email communication that probably came in with the CRV most recently. Same thing, I can go look at there's a new suggested deal for Scale Venture Partners, right? This is a company who's expressed interest in potentially trialing Clarify. So our system basically went and suggested that we create a deal. It went and filled out all this information. Who's the owner of this, which would be me? What's the stage of the deal? Who's the company? And then who's the person for this particular company? So this is some of how our ambient AI just works on the back end. But it's effectively observing all the work that you're doing in email or meetings and basically taking action on your behalf here to keep the CRM up to date. The only other thing that, so when I go approve this, the nice thing is it's automatically created. You can see the entire contact history for this as well. And then as I have more and more conversations with folks here, you can see that tasks will just automatically start appearing. You can see that the summary will be updated and then the details over here will just be automatically filled out for you. Yeah, I know there's a couple other questions here maybe we can address right now. Austin, anything that you think is worth jumping into?
I've just been answering some of the questions as they've come up.
Cool.
I think maybe just to round out, since people were asking, we have a Gmail integration, we have a Microsoft integration. I think Ruben asked, hey, do you have a local call recorder? I'm not sure if you can demo that fully here with the app, but we do have what's called local recording. That's the ability to effectively record and take notes on a meeting without having the bot join. We also have the ability to have a bot join. So if the way that at least I think we use it internally, as Patrick is demonstrating, is when you have a call where you just want to take notes, you can just take notes with Clarify. It's going to pop into the meeting. If you want to have a bot join all your external meetings, that way you just have it auto recorded for you. You can do that as well. You
Yeah.
want to anything more about this feature?
Yeah, no, I definitely talk about. So we have a desktop app, we have a web app as well. The nice thing about the desktop app is it's fairly well integrated into your experience, right? So if you're used to being on a call every day, like basically I have my entire calendar available from Clarify. This is Clarify's desktop app here. So you can see all my calls today, tomorrow. And again, for this one, I can easily take notes, right? If I want to, I can jump in. This will actually open up a new window for me to take notes in. But we also have obviously the bot that will join and transcribe it. This is just a really nice experience that kind of floats over to the side of your window as you're talking to a customer. We also have the ability for our local recorder to join, which I'm running right now. So I started a recording. This effectively opens the ability for us to be able to transcribe all of your calls without the bot joining. So this is a really nice experience if you want to be able to take notes without having a bot, or if your bot isn't approved to join a particular meeting. So this works really well. This is actually super helpful internally for us as well. But yeah, we have the ability to have both the bot as well as the local recorder here. And once I actually stop it, you'll actually see the transcription come in, and you can see it's processing, transcribing, and uploading, and you'll get a summary of this generated as well. The GDPR, got it. Again, this has all the core primitives that you'd expect within a CRM, so you can easily manage people and companies and deals. The nice thing about the way that our system is built is that the data is separated from the user experience. So I can easily look at a sales board and switch this over to a list if I want to. I can switch it back over to a board view if I want to. I can easily search, right? So I can do things like Command F and search for things like Atlassian. It'll show me the data here for Atlassian beyond just the being able to do Command K experiences here. So that's, I think, fundamentally very different than how I'd say legacy incumbents or other solutions are built, is that we have effectively the data and then you have the entire view or list layer on top of that. You can easily organize your data as well. So again, all of these things are what we'd call basic expectations, but you can easily group things like I have priority deals that I'm focusing on. I have things like close lost, close won. I can create more complex lists that are all effectively dynamic, right? So a lot of list management in CRM today is done through static list management. You're basically adding or removing people, companies, or deals through lists. A lot of what we built Clarify to do is to really focus more on the dynamic nature of data. So a lot of what I can do is go in and see if I go to people as an example, and I want to go say, hey, founders, based in San Francisco, I can go in and just start querying the data, and it actually generates the filters that I need here. So generally this works fairly well, but let me do remove that and go and add a location I like statement here. So this is primary location is city San Francisco, and and job title contains founder. So I can just start building more complex lists directly in the CRM. And once I've done this, right, you can see I have 680 founders in our CRM where job title contains founder and they're in the city of San Francisco. I can actually start activating this audience, right? I can start messaging them. I can sync this data with other systems coming up as well. And this is actually super helpful for not just sales, but more marketing use cases directly from your CRM. This is something I think that's fundamentally different on how we built Clarify than what other tools are that kind of fall more into that marketing CDP background. I don't know, Austin, this is something that you use. Anything that you'd add to this?
One One question actually came up. I think it was from Mike, just the ability to connect to Clay. And this fits well into what you're talking about here, which is that lists are obviously really a powerful construct for doing a lot of the things that revenue operators would expect. Give me a list of people who I talked to in the last 30 days. Give me all the people who live in New York. Let me import folks who are going to send out dinner invites. So that's all pretty obvious. Two things that come to mind though. One is you had mentioned this, but I want to emphasize it. So everybody is getting enriched that comes in to clarify whether you import them manually or it's done automatically through third-party integration, your Gmail connector or Microsoft. So we have a variety of tools, three, four, adding more. We have another one we're adding this week. And we do a waterfall enrichment, which means we actually take a record and we try to enrich it with one service, then we go to another service, then we go to another. And by doing this, we get broader coverage across everybody. And we also do this for you for free. So as long as you're using Clarify, and you import all your contacts, we're automatically waterfall enriching them. So a lot of the use cases for Clay are around that waterfall enrichment and then are around outbounding and prospecting. And I find that most of our customers are serviced right now just by importing their list into Clarify. They automatically get enriched and then they will export those CSVs out to different tools they need to outbound. I don't know if you want to talk at all about some of our future plans around emailing, sequencing, and outbounding, but that's obviously on our future roadmap
Yeah.
too. So.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely cover on what's coming up in the next 6 months back when I in Figma. But one of the things that we really want to do is so that you can start building more of this the dynamic nature of the CRM and build workflow automation on top of it, right? We talked a little bit about companies, people, deals, and meetings, right? Again, all of these things have, the only other thing I'd add is that these all have custom fields. So again, this is extremely configurable. We're about to ship things like the ability for you to define a prompt on a field as well, which has capabilities like internet research tools and a bunch of other things. A lot of the discovery or questions that you might want to have should hopefully be available in the near future. But things like we have a workflow orchestration system already built in, right? So you can come in, create more complex workflows, right? So we have a PQL definition. Anytime somebody signs up with in our onboarding form with three or more people, that creates a PQL and that automatically creates a deal for us to go after. And then anytime like a sales deal is created, we basically post to a Slack channel. But yeah, you can come in here, choose a trigger, and then choose an action, right? So on a deal create, I want to go do a bunch of things. You can, again, go filter on a bunch of data here. I can go send an outbound webhook, right? So the ability to orchestrate data, not just inside, but outside of the CRM is something that we're spending a lot of time on and very excited about this as well. And then, yeah, some reporting capabilities as well. So reporting is like one of the core things that a lot of folks need in CRM. So not only can you query all your CRM data outside of Clarify in tools like Looker or Tableau or Hex, you name it, you can also build reports inside of Clarify. We ship with a lot of out-of-the-box reports like deal overview and pipeline health. But this kind of gives you a bit of a gist of what's happening here. And it's really helpful because you can go in, click in, see like things like the last 7 days, and it's going to generate a report for you. Look at things like the number of meetings, MQL to deal conversion, and just give you a sense of how things are progressing within your own team. We also do a lot of things that are a little bit more advanced, right? So we track things like weekly active usage inside of Clarify. We track things like weekly active instances, which is the number of customers that we have. We look at things like credit consumption. So not only are we just looking at data inside of Clarify, we're pulling in things like Stripe data into Clarify for understanding adoption and usage. I think that's probably a lot of what I'll touch on today. We obviously have a lot more things like task management, which we didn't really get to, but mostly things like tasks are automatically created for you anyways. And then I can look at things like created by me. I can go look at things that are upcoming and overdue. But yeah, a lot of those primitives also exist. So I'll jump back into the Figma real quick and just touch on how we think about pricing. This is something that I think we're taking a very different stance on within the market. So most CRMs today charge based off seats. Actually, we don't think that this is the right model. Most of the seats that teams are purchasing aren't being used, and most of the company then is excluded from having access to the most important data that you have, which is your customer data. So we actually think about the CRM as really being a free CRM where we charge for the work, effectively the agent on top of it. So you're not paying for seats and Clarify, you're paying for work. I'll show you what that looks like just to quickly touch on it. Is that if you go into settings and billing, we basically just charge you for credits that are consumed. So here, there's a bunch of features that we run that consume credits. You're effectively buying credits at Clarify and we consume them. This is a lot more akin to things like tasks as Zapier, if you've used Zapier before. But you're only paying for credits that are being used and consumed within the CRM. You're not paying for seats, which means that you can have as many people on the CRM as you want. Some of the features that we do, which I touched on quickly, is things like when we summarize a deal that costs credits, when we do meeting prep for you that costs credits, when we do AI generated tasks that cost credits. The nice thing is that if you don't like these features, you can go turn them off, right? So every feature that we have that's built into effectively our agent experience is completely configurable. You can come in, you can provide custom instructions, you can enable, disable this feature, and it's the best signal that we have. If you disable something, it means that we missed the mark. It's not quite good enough and that we should continue to invest in it to make it better. Again, all of that is customizable here under what we call intelligence, but this is effectively how you configure our agent at Clarify. Jumping back over into the deck real quick, I showed you a live overview of this. If there's any questions that folks have, this is definitely something that I think we're the first CRM in market that doesn't charge for seats, which super proud of. Obviously, there's some learnings that we have on our end to make this better and be more transparent. But yeah, the first step really was investing in things like usage-based reporting, making it easy for you to see how your credits are being consumed across your team. Talked a little bit about what autonomous means for us and alluded to things like what we call ambient AI versus more of an agent-based experience. So quickly to touch on that as well. When we say AI native versus autonomous, AI native for us means really the underlying architecture of how we built everything to be agent first. And you can see some of that with things like automatic deal creation, automatic field updates. And that really touches on to how do we be more proactive and less reactive. So most CRMs, you put information in, but nothing happens. For us, the more information we get into the CRM, the more work, effectively, the more labor we're hopefully able to do on your behalf. And again, we really want this running in the background so you can spend more time with customers, less time in your CRM. The power of the CRM is really the data that we have. So we talked a little bit, I think there were some questions about things like being able to pull in LinkedIn data and LinkedIn messages. Today, we're able to pull in all your email and meeting data, but a lot of what we're trying to do is pull in other data as well, things like LinkedIn and Slack, and that you'll see on the roadmap. Austin, I know I'm still in your thunder here. Any things that you'd add here, especially around the data side?
Yeah, I know we're deviating from script a little bit, but there's such great questions coming in that I'm like laser focused on the right-hand
Yeah,
side of the
yeah.
screen. Actually, just maybe we could take a minute to answer some of these and it will fit with this. You
Perfect.
talked about leveraging all our data and that the CRM should be flexible. So one of the questions that Nikhil asked was, can you bring in data from tools like Mixpanel or Amplitude? And that actually is one of the secret things about Clarify that I love so much and I think speaks to our future vision for what a CRM could be. Today, we're actually using post-hog to capture all of our product analytics data, and we push it into Clarify so that we can see when people signed up, when they performed certain actions, and their last login was. We haven't fully productized this yet, but it's on our roadmap to do that in the next 6 to 12 months. And when we do that, you'll now have the ability to combine product analytics and event data with the traditional CRM data. This unlocks so many use cases, but we could talk for another 15 minutes about this, Nikhil, but I did want to address that question directly. And I don't know if you want to show it real quick, Pat,
Yeah.
inside the tool.
Yeah, I think I'll show on the workflow side for sure. I think, Nikhil, one of the things that one half of our team came from Amplitude iteratively, which so we're very familiar with CDPs and event data and primarily behavioral data for as well. We have folks even from who used to work at Heap on our team. And so, yes, one, it's really easy to send us event data and then be able to take actions, right? So you can send us your usage data and say, hey, what features have people adopted? And you can create a field, which is, as an example, are people who are signing up for Clarify adopting our call recorder, right? And in the near future, be able to do things like computed fields around like, what does a customer health score look like inside of the CRM? So not just for pre-sales and sales, but also for the post-sales use cases, and especially for us because we're a PLG-driven business, we use a lot of this data for things like generating the PQL for us. So yes, 100% aligned with that. And I think we have the right team and background and experience to go make that a reality as well. And what other questions do we have here, Austin, that we should touch on? It looks like there's a ton of engagement.
Yeah, also some great questions from Maxim and Michael around deal intelligence and also just the idea of prompting. So maybe good to show some of the settings around how we actually offer the flexibility to add additional prompt language. What is our default prompts? What's happening in the background? What models do we use? I tried to answer some of those questions, but it might be good if you show and
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about that.
No, no problem. Yeah, so we use a variety of different models under the hood. We have good relationships with both OpenAI and Anthropic, both on the enterprise side. So we're not training off any of your customer data. And additionally, you're able to kind of tune things, provide us a company description. This helps us understand your business better on who you're selling to for things like being able to detect when a deal should be created. You can also provide more custom prompt instructions for that as well. So we give you the flexibility. We have pretty good out of the box tuning and evaluations to know if we're suggesting the right things. But if you ever wanted to be able to tune it, you can. As an example for us, we only include VC funds when there's clear discussion about them using Clarify. Otherwise, defer to not creating a deal. A lot of folks on the VC side reaching out to us. And then we can provide instructions for things like summarization for deal summaries as well and field updates. So again, we try to give you as much control to tune things, but we really want to build a system where you don't necessarily have to tune it. It just works great out of the box. And yes, definitely making a lot of investment in our evals framework there as well.
Pat, do you want to talk a little bit again about pricing model? A good question from Diraj was around how does token-based pricing compare to the standard seat-based models? And do we have any early data or signal from some of our customers that might mean one way or the other around how this pricing model would work in the future as a company scales?
Yeah, no, it's great. And this is I think the hardest challenge around the credit or consumption model is just predictability, right? So it's a lot harder for people to forecast versus a seat-based pricing. But generally what we're finding is that Clarify is better, faster, and cheaper for teams, right? So people that are switching from existing legacy incumbents over to us are actually saving quite a bit of money, not just on the core CRM, but because they're actually able to consolidate multiple tools into an all-in-one solution, right? So they're replacing their call recorder, they're replacing their CSP or the post-sales tool. They're replacing their outreach solution all into Clarify, and that really helps them consolidate what could have been 20, 25K in tools for even a seed stage company or Series A company into something that's just much, much cheaper at scale. And we're only charging you when we do labor for you. Again, like it's fairly value aligned. The hardest part is predictability. So we're building a lot of tools like cost forecasting calculators as well, just to help provide that level of transparency to our customers. Is there any other questions, Austin, or should I jump back into the deck?
Yeah, we can jump back into the deck. I'm going through them.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite topic is like what's coming next, right? So we spent a lot of time, a year and a half, building effectively what you saw today, a team of 23 people and growing pretty quickly. So if folks are interested, let us know if you like what we're working on. But what really are we investing in the future for the next 6 months or so? We have really three core pods, and a lot of this should hopefully help sell the vision of what we're building here at Clarify. We have a relationships team. This is effectively focusing a lot on the core primitives of CRM. A lot of what they're doing is trying to how do we get more data into Clarify. So a lot of that is things like LinkedIn integration, for being able to pull in contacts, messages, those types of capabilities, effectively making it so that you really do have a system record customer 360. Even for us, right, we spend a lot of time in LinkedIn, so it's a great channel for us and definitely want to make sure we have that data in Clarify. Same with Slack. So if you do things like mutual success rooms or deal rooms in Slack, how do you be able to integrate that so it automatically updates your deal anytime you're having a conversation in Slack? And then again, more extensibility. So things like public API and API keys. Everything in Clarify has an API. We can generate API tokens for teams today. And we have a lot of folks using us with our API, but definitely want to invest more in things like having public documentation for our API, having example repos for our API as well. And so that's an area that we're investing a lot of time in H2. For our engagement team, this is a new pod, but a lot of this is how do you interact with your customers? So when you think about customer engagement, what are the interactions that you're having and how do we help automate some of that for you? So things like autonomous sequences, we're doing things like follow-up, outreach, you name it, both for inbound and as well as outbound motions. Things like automated meeting follow-up. So once you've had a call, how do we draft a follow-up that's ready for you to send out directly? And then these one-off bulk sends. This is what you typically get into more things like campaigns or marketing experiences. But how do we support those use cases? So again, as an early stage team, you really just have one tool to manage. And again, we'll integrate with a bunch of different providers out here, but want to make sure that we provide enough here to get teams up and off the ground without having to go buy a bunch of different solutions. On the intelligence side, I think this is an area that we're spending a lot of time just really innovating as a team. So one is the ability to do things like AI fields. So you can define a prompt will automatically run every time and give you the latest thing. So, great example of this is if you're selling to companies who are looking at SOC 2, right? Go evaluate whether or not they're SOC 2 compliant and go do some internet research there. Account research, this is more specific to being able to run deep research on people, companies, and deals directly in your CRM. So anytime that there's a company associated with a deal, how do we go get you more information? Things like what roles are they hiring for? Who are they competing with? If it's a public company, what's their latest S1 filing? And then being able to extrapolate insights that you can look at to help you get effectively help you sell into that company. And then more of the behavioral side, which is how do we build better default things like reminders into Clarify. So the hardest part about sales is knowing when to follow up and how to follow up. And so trying to build a little bit more intelligence there so that you effectively don't forget to follow up with a customer that you should be doing. This is super valuable when you have this high velocity sales motion that we have even internally at Clarify. I think we can transition this over to the AMA now, Austin, unless there's anything else that you touched on the roadmap side.
No, I think you covered most of it, Pat.
One thing, Pat, that we didn't get to explicitly, Caroline, it was on the roadmap, but Caroline Adams asked, how soon is the LinkedIn integration coming? Alternatively, is there a recommended path for enriching the CRM data with a LinkedIn export?
I
Yes.
can, oh, go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Austin. No,
Oh,
no, you.
yeah, I cover the short and then maybe you have a good answer on the long term. Short run, Caroline, is we don't have an integration directly with LinkedIn. We have a Chrome extension just for adding people to LinkedIn, what you're expecting from every other LinkedIn extension out there where you can add a record into your CRM. But if you want to get conversation history, which I think is what a lot of people are after, myself included, we actually use this tool called Condo. It's a third party. It's like a superhuman for LinkedIn. It's really great. It's $20 a month. And they have an integration that you can use with Clarify where you can push the conversation history directly into Clarify. And we actually have done a webinar and like some chats on this, and we have a blog post. So we have some resources to help you set that up. That's a really good short-term solution. But Pat, I know we're thinking about our own solution for this long term.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we have a LinkedIn integration in progress right now. So this is the one of the first projects that we're working on in Q3. And primarily the three major use cases there is one to get your contacts into Clarify. So and then build the relationship graph across your customers. As an example, if you're selling to Atlassian, who do I know who knows somebody at Atlassian or who at my team has a really good relationship with people at Atlassian. So just understanding that graph effectively. And then second is really kind of that message history. So similar to how you can ingest email messages, how do you get that message data? And then yes, we partner with Condo, but we definitely want to be able to offer some of those capabilities as well. And then third is like, how do you think about orchestrating more complex sequences with tools like LinkedIn as well? So if you do any outreach on LinkedIn, what does that experience look like? And that's a little bit further out, but still in the H2 purview as well.
Awesome. Next question is from Pinkesh. How do you think about building chat/agentic experience versus traditional UI enriched by your ambient AI?
Yeah, I think the answer is both, right? So yes, we'll have to build ambient AI. Yes, we'll have to build more chat experiences. So what we're investing a lot into right now, for what it's worth, is just the ability to chat with your CRM. But we want to make sure that we provided enough value on the AI side before building that kind of co-pilot style experience. So we have co-pilot today for meetings. We're about to launch that for things like deals. So you can just ask questions to deals. And the long-term goal is you can just ask questions to your CRM. So if I had a question that I might have would be like, what companies have I chatted to who are looking to migrate from HubSpot, who had pain points around pricing? So that's a typical question that I would look to ask my CRM and then want that to generate me a list of companies that I can then start reaching out to. So that's coming up actually in the near future as well, and definitely on the H2 roadmap.
Nice. You mentioned H2 there. Mike asked, what would our timeline be for delivering some of the items on the roadmap that you previewed, if you can give general kind of time frames?
Yeah, like we should have it early acting on LinkedIn hopefully in Q3, so in the next few months. Slack probably more Q4, public APIs and API keys probably Q4. Autonomous sequences more likely Q4, early end of Q3. Meeting follow-up is like this month, and then one-off bulk send should be, I'd say, in the next 2 or 3 months. Intelligence AI fields, we're looking at like the next month or so. Account research next 3 to 4 months, and then auto nudges in the next month or so. And there's about 100 things that aren't on this for what it's worth, but this is some of the bigger rocks that we're excited to talk about.
Great. Okay, only a couple more questions that at least I'm seeing. The first one is, are we hiring?
We are hiring. Yeah, yeah. We have nice capital injection on our Series A. So we do have a public hiring page. If anybody's interested, please go submit your resume there, reach out to Austin or myself. We are definitely hiring primarily on the engineering side at the moment, but starting to expand out our go-to-market team. So if there's any early sellers on the team that are on this call who are interested, yeah, please reach out.
Nice. And then the last question, unless any others come in, Christian, as Salvo asked a couple minutes ago, what's resonated most with customers? And on the flip side, what are some of the common objections or reasons customers haven't stuck around?
I think the top three things that people like about Clarify, one is just the ease of use, right? So it's an extremely easy product to use, especially if you're coming from a legacy incumbent. It just works. We spent a lot of time focusing and sorting the details on the design and the experience side so that it's intuitive. The MBA AI is definitely something that once you have things like deals automatically being suggested for you or updated automatically for you, that's something that people are like, hey, this is just how it should be working. And then the integrated call recorder, I'd say, is like probably the third aha moment for a lot of teams. They're like, cool, I don't have to actually go buy another solution that like doesn't integrate with the CRM. The things that people struggled with previously is a lot of it was related to reporting. I'd say still it's an area that we have to invest more into, but like it's nice that we have some reporting and that's starting to pick up adoption. The other areas that people struggled with really is just the level of integration. So we're expanding out our integration suite quite drastically. You can see obviously LinkedIn and Slack, but other integrations as well, including integrations with existing incumbents. So if you have Salesforce or HubSpot, how do you get your data from there over to Clarify? We have a HubSpot integration currently today as an example of that investment. And then workflows. I think workflows is the other area we just have to invest more time and energy into. So we have a kind of an initial release that we did, and it does show the vision of what we want to build, but definitely making it easier to use for people so that more people are adopting it. It's the other thing that's top of mind for me.
Awesome. Nikhil asks, what types of companies would find Clarify as the best fit for their CRM requirement?
I mean, there's really two ICPs that we go after today. One is early stage founders or N plus one. Like they have a few folks on the sales and marketing team that they're working with. I think we're a great fit for those teams today. Obviously, moving up market, we have companies that we've been working with for a year who are doing extremely well in the market. So they're pushing us to go build effectively what you expect from more Series B, Series C companies. And then I'd say the other group of people that we have, which is an emerging kind of ICP that we have a lot of folks interested in, is really just investors who are using Clarify as their CRM today. The CRMs for investors are as legacy almost as other tools out there. So we've had a lot of investors start adopting Clarify as their CRM of choice.
Awesome. As far as I can tell, that's the last of the questions that we have. This has been great. I learned a lot, even being an employee here. So, Austin, Pat, any final words before we sign off today?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming. This is awesome. We were just commenting rarely in webinars do we have such strong attendance the entire way through. So that just speaks to your guys' awesomeness and desire to learn and hear more about what we're building. A quick sign off though. One is if you haven't tried Clarify, you should go try Clarify. It doesn't matter who you are. You can sign up on clarify.ai. Likewise, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love your feedback. You guys will get a follow-up email, right, Chris? And feel free to respond with comments, questions, thoughts, things that we can do better. We're always looking to learn from you guys as well. So thank you for coming and please keep us posted on your journey, try and clarify, and we'll keep you posted on what we're building next.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Al. Bye.